All right, welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. You had depressed Daniel and depressed Jeff 24 hours ago, and yet here we are. The Dodgers are winning 3-2 in the World Series behind a 4-2 victory in the Game 5 of the World Series over the Rays. Absolutely another nail-biter. Basically everything that Dodger fans were not hoping for as far as the tension and how close this game was. Even in the ninth inning, it was like, here we go again, another like 65-mile-an-hour exit velocity ground ball that's going to be the leadoff hit. But Treinen shuts it down, Victor Gonzalez shuts it down, Dustin May shuts it down. Absolutely classic Clayton Kershaw performance. The bats do just enough, so we've got lots to talk about. We've got a hat to give away. We've got conversations about Walker Buehler in Game 6 to be had, I'm sure of it. But before we get to Game 6, before we get to the hat giveaway, let's talk about this one. I mean, for me, the number one talking point going into this game, and basically no matter what happened, was going to be Clayton Kershaw as far as I was concerned. He wasn't great to begin the game. He wasn't missing bats. He was kind of grinding it out. He gets to that spot where he's got runners on first and third and nobody out. And at some point I tweeted, like, Kershaw is the only guy I ever trust to figure out his stuff partway through a game. He figured out his stuff partway through the game. He goes 5 2/3 for the Dodgers. Absolutely. This is one of those games we're going to look back on the box score and say, ho-hum, who cares? But watching it live, absolutely 1,000% what the Dodgers needed from Kershaw tonight.
Yeah, he battled all night. It was pretty clear from the beginning he didn't have his best stuff. He wasn't commanding his slider the way he did in Game 1 when he just got a million swings and misses on it. So he kind of had to battle through this one. The leadoff man reached for the Rays in, I believe, each of the first 4 innings. Yeah. So he was pitching with traffic on the base pass all night. Like you said, that they had that first and third. That was the big inning right there. That was the inning, the Clayton Kershaw inning where things usually go south in the postseason. Luckily this time, he battled it, and it didn't. He got a pop up, he got a strikeout, and then Manny Margot tried to be Jackie Robinson and steal home. He almost did it.
Yeah,
too.
It was freaking close.
Yeah, it was close, but he was out. Kershaw got out of it, and he battled to get through 5.2. I'm sure we'll get into later of if we would have left him in there or not. But I mean, to give them 5.2 strong innings after what happened last night was exactly what the doctor ordered, and then the bullpen was great in relief of him. They got the job done.
Yeah, and I mean 5 2/3. He gave up 7 base runners, so that's not great. He does finish with 6 strikeouts, though. Of course, the biggest one being in that clutch inning where he had runners on first and third. He gets a pop-up, he gets a strikeout, and then the attempt to steal home. So lots to like from Kershaw. And, people are joking about how I had Kershaw for MVP. I don't think he did anything tonight to hurt his chances. I think Corey Seager, the track that he is on, nobody is rooting for a Clayton Kershaw appearance in Game 6 or Game 7. Like, I just want to be crystal clear. You will not ever hear me say I want Kershaw in Game 6 or 7. But I think that would something crazy would have to happen with Kershaw in 6 or 7 for the MVP case to be had. But we're getting way too far ahead of ourselves. So let's go back and talk about the offense a little bit. We've been critical of the offense. For the first 3 quarters of the postseason, we just sort of mailed in the first 2 innings and figured we'd figure it out later. Now the Dodgers like to score runs early. It's absolutely amazing. Mookie leads off the game with a double. He looked pretty much worthless in every at-bat after that, but he gets the double to start. Seager knocks him in. Jock adds a home run later on. And, I mean, the Dodgers jump out to a 3-0 lead. What did you see from the offense? I thought Smoltz did a great job of saying Mookie was terrible in his last few at-bats, but getting a double in the first at-bat of a game coming off of last night, had to be basically like medicine for the Dodger bench.
Yeah, that was absolutely huge, starting it off like that. Just to get even my own mind off of last night. I could only imagine how they were feeling. But yeah, just to put that one away and get started early here was huge. Mookie obviously with the leadoff double, and then Seager follows with the single. We talked last night. We were oddly confident about this game, and one of the reasons was because Glasnow was pitching. He's kind of the prototypical pitcher that would struggle against the Dodgers. Yes, he throws hard and strikes out a lot of guys, but he also struggles with his command. He's right-handed, which we know the Dodgers hit righties well. And again, he just couldn't really find the zone early. He threw 33 pitches in that first inning. I mean, credit to him. He settled in, after the first couple innings. But I think the Dodgers getting those early runs on the board was absolutely huge. And for Kershaw as well, obviously he could go out there and pitch with a little bit less pressure, knowing he's got a couple runs, in his pocket.
Well, and to your credit, or to your point, Glasnow, 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 walks, 4 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, including 2 home runs were the big ones off of him. But credit the Rays bullpen, 4 innings of no-hit ball.
Great.
4 innings of no-hit ball. I mean, we were up 4-2, so you kind of just sort of forget about, I wasn't really stressed about scoring runs as much as I was preventing them on the other side. But 4 innings of no-hit ball. They did walk 2, but the Dodgers offense did just enough. You hope that the back half of tonight's game doesn't carry over into Tuesday's game, but definitely a good thing for the Dodger offense to get things going. Like you said, just to clear the palate a little, cleanse the palate a little bit, let Kershaw settle in. And because, I mean, again, if Kershaw up 3-0, he gives up those 2 runs, that's a spot where if it's 2-0 Rays, there's some panic, I'm sure. But knowing he's got 3 runs, it doesn't make it any less stressful necessarily, but it probably just lightens the mood a little bit. And by the time the 5th inning rolled around, and let's get to the 4th, because I guess the 4th is where everything starts. You get the walk. Right. You get the stolen base by Margot. You get another walk. A stolen base in the error, excuse me. So now you've got a runner on 1st and 3rd after a second walk with nobody out. He gets the infield pop out. He gets the strikeout. Now we've got 1st and 3rd. I believe he was ahead on the count at the guy at the dish. My initial reaction was, what an idiot, when I saw Margot stealing home. Because I'm like, it's a 1-run game in the World Series, and you're standing on 3rd base. They say never make the 3rd out at 3rd. Never make the 3rd out stealing home, I have to imagine, is somewhere in the rule book. And yet, he was so freaking close to stealing it that I can't really credit. I mean, it's like, if you replay that 1,000 times in a row, I'm not sure it's more than 50-50 for the Dodgers. And if you're the Rays, you probably take your chances. What was your reaction as that was all unfolding? Because I'll also add, I didn't think Barnes got him until the 15th replay they showed.
Yeah, I honestly thought he was safe too. So I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Of all ways, stealing home. But first of all, huge credit to Kershaw there. As a pitcher, especially a lefty, all that's to your back.
Right.
So you don't really know what's going on back there. So Kershaw's just reacting off what he's hearing from his teammates yelling that the guy's going. So huge credit to him for staying calm, stepping off. His throw home wasn't perfect, but he got it there. Which is the most
didn't balk.
Thing.
I mean, it's got to be so hard not to balk in that situation.
Exactly. So I mean, huge credit to Kershaw first of all. And I honestly didn't hate it as much as you did. Just thinking from the Rays' perspective, even though they stole Game 4 and it's a 2-2 series, they know they're still at a huge talent disadvantage in this series. And to win the World Series, sometimes you got to do risky things. I don't know if I would have had the balls to call that if I'm a coach there or if I'm the runner there. But, I mean, Margot was on 3rd for a while. So he was tracking Kershaw. He was timing him pretty well. And he just took off. He went for it. I mean, the bottom of the lineup was up. So it's not like if a Rosarena or Brandon Lauer, someone's up, you never do that, obviously. But when it's a guy up that you don't trust at the plate, I didn't mind trying it, and it almost worked for them. So, I mean, hey, an inch here, an inch there, and it's a tie game. And we were talking about how Manny Margot pulled, the best thing in the World Series in the last 3 decades or whatever. So, luckily that didn't happen. After what we went through last night, we didn't need something like that again. So, luckily they got him out. And I feel like that was big for Kershaw because he came out the next couple innings and looked a lot better. Yeah,
there's lots of people asking about Buehler in Game 6, trying and closing. I promise you we'll get to that. But I want to talk about Kershaw first because I really did feel like after a game last night where we crushed Dave Roberts, he came right back and had a bunch of big decisions to make. Now, this might sound crazy in hindsight, but I thought there was a genuine conversation about how you felt about Kershaw coming back for the 5th. Now, because of how jacked up the bullpen was, I think that made the decision easier.
Yeah.
But to go walk to start the 4th inning, man, and realistically, he only got 2 outs. And I'll add about the stolen base real quick. Kershaw is fortunate. He's staring at the Dodger dugout because they're the visitors. So I have to imagine that helps. If you're the home team, basically your first baseman is the only guy that can help you out there. He's probably got the whole dugout pointing and screaming. So they decide to bring Kershaw back out for the 5th, which I think was in the moment the right move, but it was definitely a decision. He comes out, boom, 1, 2, 3 inning in the 5th. Feels like, okay, he found a groove. The slider starts missing bats, etc. I write in my notes, all caps, do you bring Kershaw out for the 6th? We know this is the inning that he struggles in. He had gotten through the 5th. Some question, like I said, whether or not he should have come back out of the 4th as a guy who wasn't missing bats. They bring him back out. He gets 2 pitches and 2 outs, and then the fans start booing when Dave Roberts pulls him. Yeah. I have thoughts on this, but I'll ask you first. Kershaw, 5.2, 2 pitches, 2 outs. What's your thought on that moment?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, how about Justin Turner trying to talk Dave Roberts into leaving him in? I don't think I've ever seen that before, where a teammate is lobbying for a pitcher to stay in. I thought that was pretty cool. But it was one of those where I didn't really have a huge problem either way. He got 2 quick outs on 2 pitches, so if it was up to me personally, I would have left him in for 1 more hitter. You're up by 2, so if he gives up a bomb there, you're still like, the game's not over by any means. So I would have left him in for 1 more hitter. I just prefer clean innings for relievers, especially a guy like Dustin May. Like to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have him come out, get 1 guy, and then go immediately sit down in the dugout for 10 or 15 minutes and then come back out. But yeah, I didn't have a problem either way. Luckily, it worked out, so I'm not going to sit here and complain, oh, he took him out too early. But I just think it's funny how, like, no matter what Dave Roberts does, there's going to be people complaining, like whether he takes them out too early or too late. Like someone's always going to take issue with it. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there were 3 things. One is, as a guy who I love Clayton Kershaw as if he was my own child, okay? Like, we were on a group chat before the game, and I basically said, I'm nervous. I would almost rather Kershaw pitch well and the Dodgers lose. Like, I mean, like, I love Kershaw. I want so much for him to do well. And for me, I would much rather take him out too early than too late. I mean, like, obviously that seems like a very stupid thing and obvious thing to say. But for me, that's number 1. Number 2 is, yes, he had 2 pitches and 2 outs. Arozarena hit the ball about 106 miles an hour at third. Yeah. So it's not like he had struck out a couple guys and was like getting blue. I mean, freaking roped. So, and I mean, and again, at this point, it's a 2-run game, but I mean, with the bullpen coming, you never know. The third thing, and I didn't really process it in real time, or excuse me, I didn't process it at the moment, but then they bring May in, and I start thinking. And with the 3-batter rule, Dustin May terrifies me if I know he's got to get three batters, because he's just been so unpredictable. And so the thing I loved about that decision is he comes in a very, like, low-risk situation. Basically, you get 1 batter to say, what does your stuff look like? If you're a mess, if you walk a guy, you'd basically have to screw up pretty massively over the course of 3 batters for this to really be a problem. Even if he walks a guy, he probably gets the next guy out, or at least competitive. So I like that you sort of get May a chance to get his feet wet to see what happens. And then Dustin May, holy crap, 101.5 mile an hour fastball to strike out the guy to end the inning. And I mean, unbelievable from Dustin May. He comes back for the 7th 1-2-3 inning for him. Yes, there's a ball roped to Jock Peterson. I got a little nervous because he got so animated. I was like, bro, you can get animated when you close out an inning, not in the middle of an inning.
Ball and he's just jumping up. I'm like, come on, like, save that for the home runs, please.
So again, we've got a decision for Dave Roberts. Do you leave him in for the 8th inning? He leaves him in for the 8th. He gives up a leadoff single to Kiermaier. He gets a pop out. The pinch hitter pops out, and then Choi comes in to pinch hit, and Gonzalez comes in. This was the 3rd big decision I thought Roberts had to make. The first was pulling Kershaw. The second was whether you bring May back out for the 8th. And the third was what you do in this situation. They pinch hit a lefty. Roberts goes to the lefty. They pinch hit another righty. So Brasso comes in. Gonzalez has 2 batters. Obviously, we know how it plays out. He throws a wild pitch. He gives up a walk. And then he pops out the 2 best players on the team. Your thoughts in real time about pulling May there and bringing in Gonzalez?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I liked May coming back out for the 8th.
Yeah.
There were some people saying he probably should have been done. He hasn't been thrown like a lot of pitches at a time, and he was at 20-something. I like bringing him out for the 8th, and I thought Dave Roberts handled that pitching change correctly. Yeah. I'm not even talking about the pitcher that came in. Just he let May. He gave up the leadoff hit. He let him get 1 more hitter. He got him out. And then with the top of the lineup coming out, he made the pitching change. I thought that was the correct time to make a pitching change. I don't know if Victor Gonzalez would have been the guy I would have went with, but me and you have both been talking about on this show about how much we trust Victor Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So oddly enough, like as soon as he came in, and I know he walked the first guy and he kind of
wild
to start, which that's kind of how he's been in every single appearance he's had. Like he comes in and walks the guy and then like gets 2 or 3 outs right after that. But like I oddly felt like really comfortable with Gonzalez on the mound, which never happens to me like in these tight postseason games. Like last night with like Baez and Kenley out there, it was an absolute mess. But for some reason, I don't even know why, I just felt calm with Gonzalez out there, and he stayed calm as well and got the job done. So that was huge right there. That was, to me, that was the big threat right there, because that was some their big hitters coming up. The ninth inning, even though they got the leadoff hit, we knew it was bottom of the order guys coming up that can't really hit. So to me, that eighth inning was huge, and Victor Gonzalez got the job done. Whether we thought he would or not, he did.
Yeah, I mean, my thing in that situation is, first of all, people wanting May in. Like, the second batter up was going to be a Rosarena. All a Rosarena does is hit fastballs, and Dustin May was throwing almost exclusively fastballs. He hadn't really located the cutter, and he hadn't really located the curveball. So that's why I go to Gonzalez. And if I don't know who else you bring in there. I mean, Gonzalez is the only guy that's rested. Obviously, they didn't even know really what to do for the ninth. It seemed like bringing in Treinen. They go to Gonzalez. I actually just got sent this. So on the last out of the inning against that pop up to Lau, Bellinger makes a catch in center field that seems pretty average, pretty ordinary. The StatCast on that, 45% catch probability that ball gets caught. Cody Bellinger,
he makes it look easy.
He covered 74 feet in 4.4 seconds. His jump was plus 4.6 feet above average. His sprint speed was 29.8 feet per second, which is just below the elite threshold. This is from David Adler. I mean, it looked easy. Like, I just have in my notes, like, 2 easy pop-ups. Unbelievable play from Bellinger. And Gonzalez, again, we joked before we came on. You and I have had the same thoughts about the bullpen generally. Gonzalez is a guy we liked. I like that they bring him in for the big spot. People who want to say, I don't like May there because I don't want his fastball against a Rosarena. And if I don't know what the alternative was. I mean, if somebody wants to throw a name out there of who you wanted more there, I'm welcome to hear it. Obviously, bringing in the lefty forces them to burn a second pinch hitter, which I thought mattered, obviously, because by the end, if they had gotten in the ninth, they would have had no bats on the bench except for the scrub who beat us last night, who will remain nameless at the time. So Gonzalez gets out of it. That was huge. I mean, that was the biggest moment. And then it gets to the ninth. And I'm sure every Dodger fan in the world was doing the same thing, which we were down on our knees and praying that Kenley Jansen was locked in a room somewhere.
Yeah.
But then even with Jansen not available, you say, who do you go to? I mean, the other best guys that they've had are Baez, who was terrible last night, Gratterall, who's pitched 2 days in a row, and Treinen, who's pitched 2 days in a row. Treinen's clearly the guy. He's the only person warming. They bring in Treinen. You and I have both agreed that Treinen's the guy we trust most. Yes, Gratterall pitched less last night than Treinen has. He's probably, quote, more rested. Treinen's a veteran. Treinen's a guy that they've put in crazy situations. I remember the NLCS. He came, like, it was either the second or third day in a row, and he pitched 2 innings. Like, it was, they maximized him. He's a veteran, and absolutely... Like, he gets up the ground ball in the middle, which I tweet, like, this, we're doing this crap again. I didn't even want to look up the exit velocity. It's probably about 80. And then absolutely dominant from there on out. Fantastic stuff from Treinen. And I think the Dodgers, at least for game 6, and if there's 7, if there's necessary, at least we know who our closer is.
Yeah. Like you said, we've been talking up Blake Treinen this whole season pretty much. He's been, for, I think both of us, he's been the number one guy we trust the most in the bullpen. And let's be honest, he hasn't always been great. Like, he's definitely given up his fair share of hits and runs this postseason. But I feel like whenever he's absolutely needed to, like in games like this, he's shut the door. And when he came in tonight, that was the guy I wanted to see coming through those bullpen gates. I mean, I really just wanted to see anyone but Kenley. Like, if we're going to lose it, let's lose it with someone, not Kenley, because we've done it. We've lost it too many times with Kenley. We've read that book 100 times. We don't need to read it 100 first time. So I was fine with Treinen there. I know, like you said, it's the 3rd straight game, but he's done that before. He's, like you said, he's a veteran. So I had trust in him. Obviously, it wasn't ideal that the first guy singles up the middle, and now that's one swing could tie it. But I mean, Treinen, even when he's gotten hit, he doesn't give up a ton of homers. I'd have to look it up. I think he's only given up like 1 home run this whole season. So I knew it would take a bunch of hits to get it done against him. Whereas with Kenley and a couple other guys, one swing of the bat could tie it or win it at any time. So I was fine with Treinen there, and he came through. Yeah, and I mean, again, it's like, what's the alternative? Like, if somebody wants to criticize the Treinen move, even if they had lost, I would have just said, I mean, okay, like the only 2 realistic alternatives were you throw Gonzalez back out there, which
wasn't like the greatest decision making in the world, in my opinion, because of what he had done. Or go to Gratterall, and it's like Gratterall and Treinen, it's basically 50-50. Now, do you want the young guy, or do you want the vet who's been there before, who's probably less likely to give up the home run, Treinen? Obviously, he did give up the home run to Freeman in the NLCS, but anyways, I like Treinen there. He's dominant. Now, Scott asks the question that I think every Dodger fan is probably asking right now. Do we trust Dave Roberts to leave Kenley Jansen on the bench in Game 6 and 7? And when I say on the bench, I don't mean never pitching, because I think you and I both agree we still have him as one of the probably 4 best relievers, if not, that number might be 3. I mean, it's probably Treinen, Gratterall, and Jansen in some order. Baez looked shaky, so we'll go with those 3. Do we trust Dave Roberts not to use Kenley Jansen as a closer in Game 6 and or 7?
Absolutely not. I do not trust Dave Roberts. I mean, honestly, I want to see like Kenley Jansen on the mound recording the final out, but only if it's like a 4 or 5 run game. Like if it's like a save situation, like 1 or 2 runs, I do not want to see him anywhere near that mound. But at the end of the day, I do not trust Dave Roberts to keep him out of there. You know, Kenley's going to say, give me the ball. And, Dave Roberts can't really say no when stuff like that happens. So I have a feeling, for better or for worse, we're getting Kenley closing. If the Dodgers have a slim lead in the 9th in either Game 6 or Game 7, we're getting Kenley.
Although I will say, small victory for the Dave Roberts can't say no to his best player when he pulls Clayton Kershaw in the middle of the 6th inning.
That's true.
That's true. If you want a small victory, Jansen wasn't warming. They had Kolarek warming, so he was nowhere near. So we'll see. I mean, he keeps telling us it's not going to be the 9th inning guy, and then he's always the 9th inning guy. Yeah, obviously, the blown save last night was as bad as it could have been. On one hand, on the flip side, like if you want to talk yourself into it, it was weak contact and blah, blah, blah. But there it is. At the end of the day, the Dodgers have a 3-2 lead over the Rays. I almost said the Braves. Over the Rays, they need to win one of the next 2, which leads to the most obvious question that every single person wants to ask. Daniel, Game 6 in 2 days. Walker Buehler will be on 1 day less than normal rest. Tony Gonsolin will be on full and normal rest. Who do you choose?
I've stayed consistent with this since early in the series. You've pretty much asked me this question.
I have. Like every night.
I've had the same answer every time, and I'm not going to change it now. I said the only way I'm bringing back Buehler on short rest is if we're down 3-2 and it's an elimination game. That's not the case right now. We're up 3-2, and yes, it would be great to close this out in 6. But I'm just not risking it. Like the guy's never pitched on 3 days rest. He's been dealing with blisters, so every extra day is a positive as far as getting his blisters in a better spot to pitch. So I'm starting Tony Gonsolin in a pseudo bullpen game or whatever you want to call it. I'd probably give him a little longer leash than last time, I'd say. But I'm starting Gonsolin and saving Buehler for Game 7, because if you start Buehler in Game 6 and he comes out on short rest and he's not himself and his pitch count gets up early and he gets hit a little bit and the Dodgers lose that game, then what do you do in Game 7 after that, right?
Yeah.
So I know I got my ace in the hole ready for Game 7, and I trust my other guys that we could go out and win Game 6.
Yeah, and knowing that in Game 6 you have a fully rested bullpen no matter what. So you don't want to kind of mess with it otherwise. I mean, for me, one thing I'll say in Gonsolin's defense, A, we just saw Dustin May turn the corner a little bit, which gives me hope that Gonsolin can do the same. And B, he's on full rest, which he wasn't on Game 2. And he knows the role. Like, you're the starter. Now, that's what we're guessing, right? We're guessing that it's, hey, go get us 4 or 5 innings, go through the lineup twice. That obviously wasn't the case in Game 2. It makes me feel better that Dustin May look good tonight because we saw him come in a relief role, which very well could be a possibility 2 days from now. I think Julio Urias is not rested, so anybody in the mentions saying that Julio should be starting, I don't think so. But I do think that if you wanted to get an inning out of Julio, you could probably get it. But again, with a fully rested bullpen, I'd probably save Urias as your bullpen weapon in Game 7, personally, because then you got the righty on the mound and the lefty coming out. But I'm with you. I mean, the Dodgers are in a great position. You know my opinion after Game 2. I'm not at all for punting on World Series games and saying, well, we have a better chance in Game 7. But at the end of the day, if Buehler were to pitch in Game 6 and you lose, it is absolutely a nightmare. It's a nightmare psychologically as well as just in reality. Whereas you throw game 6, you feel good. I mean, the difference between game 6 and game 2 is your bullpen is fully rested. Game 2, remember, the Dodgers were recovering from game 7 and had played the night before. So they were nowhere near ready to go. Now you have everybody rested. Everybody gets a night off. Treinen is the only guy who pitched 3 days in a row. So maybe Treinen is not available. And yet after tonight, I would guess that, they'll just run him into the ground if they need to. They've got a full bullpen. I mean, so that's the thing, right? Is even if you can get 3 innings out of Gonsolin, then maybe you get an inning or 2 out of May, and then you throw at him, Gratterall, Baez, Jansen, Treinen, Gonzalez, McGee. I mean, they're rested because then you go to Buehler in game 7 and you don't have to worry about it because A, nobody's going to have pitched more than the night before, obviously, and B, you have a guy in Buehler that you're going to try and go get 6 or 7 outs with. So I'm 100% with you. Any decision that would move Buehler up, well, I'm not convinced that they're not going to do it because it feels like every time you and I logically think through something, it turns out the other way. Like we've always said, hey, just let Gonsolin be the starter, and then it's like he doesn't get to be the starter. But for me, I don't see any reason not to. Now, again, could we see Kershaw coming out of the bullpen in game 7 if you need it? I think so. So maybe you move Julio up a little bit. But, man, if it were me, because I don't think if you start Gonsolin, I don't think you're at a disadvantage. If the Dodgers announce bullpen game with Gonsolin going tomorrow, I still think they're probably favored. Like, if you were to go bet on that game, I still think the Dodgers are favored because the Dodgers got to Snell the 3rd time they saw him, and the Rays bullpen, they've seen everybody. So, personally, if it's me, I'd throw Gonsolin and feel pretty good about it, honestly.
Yeah, and I get it, like that Gonsolin and May before tonight, like those guys haven't looked good in the playoffs. Yeah. But I'm not going to just forget about how good they were in the regular season. Like that's still in them. And I feel like every outing they have in the postseason, maybe the nerves go down a little more and more. Yeah. So like I said, that May was due for a good outing tonight. I think Gonsolin's due for one more good outing this season. So I would start him in game 7. I would have a little longer leach than game 2. Like I thought that leash was a little too quickly, especially now that he's on full rest now. So he could give you like between 3 and 5 innings, depending on how he pitches. So that's what I would do. I feel like you said, the nightmare scenario is Buehler pitches game 6, you lose, and now you're screwed for game 7. Yeah. So game 6 is not a must-win game. Obviously, we all want to close it out in 6. We don't want to deal with another one of these game 7s, which is just 4 hours of the most stress possible. But at the end of the day, you got to put yourself in his best spot to win the series. Yeah. And the best spot to win the series is having Buehler on normal rest, ready to go in game 7. Yeah. And then behind him, you would have Julio and Kershaw and whoever else. So, yeah, you got a well-rested bullpen for game 6. So I'm sticking with Gonsolin there. Yeah. I'm going to keep an eye on my phone here because I'm sure David Roberts is going to announce it at some point in this show. So I'll let you know. And
one question that we keep getting asked is Alex Wood. And I'll say 2 things about Alex Wood. First, he's looked better in this series in the last, the velocity's ticked up. He's missing bats. Here's the thing about Wood. The Rays are much better against lefties than they are against righties. If you look at their numbers, they're about league average against lefties, against righties, and they're like top 5 in the league against lefties. So that would be the thing. Now, that said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Wood because with all the platoons, you could very well convince me that maybe Alex Wood's the first guy that comes out of the bullpen. Because you throw Gonsolin, you maybe get 3 innings, and then you bring a guy like Alex Wood out, and against, whoever it is, whether it's Ji-Min Choi or whoever, like you bring a lefty in the 4th, and you just say, okay, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to let Choi hit versus the lefty, or are you going to pinch hit already right here so that then you can't pinch hit? So I think that would make some sense if Urias is not the guy in game 6, but that would be the only place I'd use Alex Wood, by the way. Barring a blowout either one way or the other, the only way I'm using Alex Wood is in like the 3rd or 4th inning. Gonsolin's looked okay, and you just want to get some platoon stuff there. So let's see. Yeah, we've got one guy. Obaid Knight says Gonsolin's throwing a perfect game tomorrow. So in case anyone's wondering if he does, we'll give that guy credit for it.
There's no game tomorrow, so that would be pretty hard.
Fair enough. Not only, as if the perfect game wasn't hard enough. Okay, well, let's get to our headlines. As always, the rules are very simple. You've got to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, Dodger Blue 1958. and you've got to be following us either on Facebook or Twitter just so you can send us a message. Again, if you've already won a hat, congratulations. We're sending those out after the series ends, so just keep an eye out for that. If you haven't got it, don't freak out. But basically, the way this works is if you were writing a story for tonight's game, what would your headline be? And the best headline that we see tonight is the one that we're going to pick, and that person gets a hat sent to them courtesy of DodgerBlue.com. So, send away. I mean, for me, it's about Kershaw. I kind of threw mine out. If you're following on the stream, I sort of titled these. So I said, Kershaw grinds, bats deliver, Penn closes it out as Dodgers win Game 5. I mean, Clayton freaking Kershaw might be my backup. I just loved everything about this from Kershaw. I think he grinded it out, and the GOAT grinds it out is maybe my headline there. So let's see what we got. Send in your headline. I'm happy again. That's a good headline. Swagmaster Dank, who won one of these. I'm happy again.
Very true. Very accurate.
Kershaw silences the haters. Muncy with a boom. Dodgers need Gonsolin to be perfect to end drought. Purr with the cat.
Okay.
Let's see. Dodgers broke glass now onto Game 6. I don't know if it's the same person who won Game 1, but we already did the broke glass now in Game 1. Robert's redemption. I mean, I think it's something to be said for Jorge Mercado says Robert's redemption. I think that's good. Dustin may be back. That's good. A play on one of the negative headlines we had earlier was Dustin may not be back. Let's see. Okay. Turner named Dodgers manager for Game 6. I mean, I got to give Roberts credit. Look, I bashed him last night. I'm going to say it. Roberts was good tonight. I agreed, or at least understood every decision he made. They won a 2-run game in Game 5. So I'm giving Dave Roberts credit. I'm not saying he shouldn't be fired after what he did last game. I'm just saying that for tonight, in isolation, it was good. Kershaw overtakes the Astro, except this wasn't the Astro. Charlie Morton's the Astro. Let's see it. Trinan in vintage Kenley mood. Kershaw dealt and the Rays tried with Trinan. Kershawshank redemption in the 4th. Muncy a homer for the win for the Dodgers. That's nice.
I like the
external void.
redemption.
Kershawshank redemption. File that one away. Kershaw rewrites postseason narrative and silences the haters. Cash gets greedy trying to steal home. That's good. Let's see. Kershaw leaves Kerchoker in the past. Trinan and True. Bullpen closes the door as Dodgers recover and go up 3-2. That's nice.
That's a good one, too.
Mays the force with blue. Okay. I see where you're going. There's a couple words missing that I can't exactly place. Kershaw strikes out critics. Clayton Kersh sawed through 5 innings in the Dodgers Game 5 win. We've got some good ones. This is our best group yet.
There's some good ones tonight.
Dodgers pelvic thrust to a commanding 3-2 lead. How do you feel about that one, Daniel?
I don't know about that.
Kershaw carries crew. Kershaw game of throws. Let's see. Dave Roberts grows a brain as Dodgers bounce back with Game 5 win. Kershawshank redemption. We've got a couple of those. What do you got? You like Kershawshank redemption? Is that the one we like?
For me, it was Kershaw, the first Kershawshank redemption, or the one right after it was a clever one too. I forgot which one that was.
Let's see. I think we'll go with Kershawshank redemption, which I believe was external void. I believe you were the first person to say that in the headlines. So we'll go with external void. I don't think you've won one already. Hopefully not. But Kershawshank redemption, that's going to be our winner. That's creative. That's nice.
Creative. I like it.
External void. Can you confirm in the chats? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Were you the first person to say that? Hopefully you were. I don't want you stealing an idea from somebody else and winning it, but I think you were the first one to. Yeah.
Oh, we just got news. Tony Gonsolin starting Game 6. Okay. So as we just talked about, that's what they're going with. I like it.
Okay. Well, external void. Congratulations, you won. So send Dodger Blue 1958 a message either on Facebook or on Twitter. If you can't figure out Twitter, send Daniel or I a message and we'll get you sorted out in the right direction. But again, you've just got to be subscribed to the YouTube channel, which I think you're watching on YouTube, so that shouldn't be too difficult. So there we go. So the Dodgers win Game 5. Daniel, you've been predicting all along Dodgers in 6. I think looking ahead to this game, Game 5, that one felt like the most critical for the Dodgers to win. Obviously,
That one was huge.
obviously winning the next one is now the most critical. But I say that because you knew somebody was going to need to get a performance with a tired bullpen. And Kershaw, like, all the pressure in the world was on Kershaw after what happened last night, with the narrative that was against him, with his postseason performance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the pressure was on Clayton Kershaw. The Dodgers needed this one. They knew they couldn't really trust the bullpen. They threw out May, Gonzalez, and Trinan. So if you had May, Gonzalez, and Trinan as the three relievers you were seeing tonight, that would have been go buy a lottery ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it. They won the game where the bullpen wasn't rested, and now you go ahead 3-2 with a rested bullpen in Game 6 and Walker Buehler in Game 7. So, I mean, do you agree with the sense that this one was the most important game? I mean, obviously the most important game's the one in front of you. I wasn't trying to say, like, oh, the Rays didn't care about this, but it felt like the pressure was more on the Dodgers to win than the Rays tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This one was huge, especially after the way last night ended. Just oftentimes we've seen momentum carry over, and that easily could have been the case with the Rays today. Like they stole that game last night. Like they had no business winning that game. They came back late and won it, and sometimes you see that carry over into the next day. So this was a big one for the Dodgers. Like we said, neither of us would feel all that comfortable going into Game 6 down 3-2 with a potential bullpen game on the horizon, or Walker Buehler on short rest and then a bullpen game in Game 7 or whatever the plan would be there. So this one was huge. Obviously, it's tied 2-2. So anytime you could go up 3-2, that means all you got to do is win one of the next two instead of two of the next two. So they're in a much better spot now than they were 24 hours ago, I feel like. But yeah, all the credit to Kershaw. They needed him tonight, and he came through. So we could put all those narratives to bed, and let's go get one more win and get that guy a ring.
Any changes you would make to the lineup? I mean, a guy like Chris Taylor has struggled. Even defensively, he hasn't been great. Or do you kind of just roll with it and see what happens?
I mean, it's going to be a lefty Snell, so it's going to be the lineup's probably going to be a little different. One thing I would do, I'm starting Barnes behind the plate, and I'm DHing. I'm DHing Will Smith, so that leaves second base and field. I'd probably let Taylor sit for a game. He hasn't looked right, so I'll put Kike at second and Pollock in left with Snell on the mound, and then obviously later in the game, Jock would probably come in for Pollock, and maybe Taylor comes in as a defensive replacement or something. But yeah, I'm giving Taylor a rest. He hasn't been great the last few games. On either side of the ball. So yeah, I'd go Kike at second and Pollock in left with Barnes catching.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been on the pro Pollock train. He's been hitting the ball hard. He did have a double in his last start. So I do think he's crushes. I mean, he's the best hitter the Dodgers have against lefties. So in the regular season. And again, it's never like the Gonsolin. This is a guy who had 16 homers in the regular season. He was tied for the team lead. So I'm with you. I think Pollock has to play. I think Kike has to play, and I think Barnes has to play, especially against a lefty. I could see the argument. I guess that gives you Chris Taylor as a pinch hitter, so you still have a guy off the bench that can get to a lefty if you need to. But absolutely. So I think I agree with you on all those as a pretty simple one, and especially, I mean, you want to get the best defense out there possible with the bullpen game. So a guy like Barnes, a guy like Kike. And I mean, I don't think Taylor's probably better than Pollock in left field, but I think the bat is different enough to justify it there. So you've been predicting Dodgers in 6. You and I predict the Dodgers to win every night. So rather than asking you who's going to win, I'll just ask you, what score do you have in Game 6 as the Dodgers take on the Rays?
Yeah, obviously we're not going to turn around and pick against the Dodgers now. Although I will say you picked them to lose the series as a reverse jinx. So I don't know, maybe you want to stick with that and pick the Rays to win Game 6. But no, I'm going Dodgers winning Game 6. I think they're going to get some early runs off Blake Snell this time. I don't think it's going to be a case where he's pitching in the 5th inning with a no-hitter or whatever it was last time. So I think they get some early runs, tack on a few more late. I'm going 6-3 Dodgers, and we're celebrating on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, Adam asks, if we win in 2 nights, can you start later so we have time to celebrate? We'll see about that. I know for a fact that Game 7, if there is a Game 7, we would have to start a little bit later. So definitely Wednesday. We'll see about Tuesday. Maybe Tuesday, if something were to happen successfully, then maybe we would just let the show breathe a little bit more and soak it all in.
Yeah.
I'd have to be wiping away the...
We all want to see... real
Yeah.
quick. We all want to see the Dodgers celebrate. So, yeah, maybe we'll push it back a little bit.
Or maybe we hop on and kind of watch it live while we're broadcasting or something like that.
Something like that for sure.
Okay, so let's get to some predictions. Grayson's got Dodgers 8-3. Richard has got 7-4 Dodgers. Obey Knight 15-3. Sicko XAMS has 8-6 Dodgers. OBU 77 has 5-4. Queen V 4-3. Jake Santia 5-3. Somehow none of these are the same. Jeremy's got 9-6. Lala says Game 6 is going to feel like Game 7. It's going to be fun. You have a different definition of fun. I enjoyed none of these games. Like, it's just a relief when it ends. It's not
getting the last out is fun. That's about it.
Yeah, depending on how it's had. Let's see. 6-5 Dodgers from It Was a Fair Fight. 11-6 Pilo says. Dodgers 5-3 says Jared. Some Randy's got 3-1. Georgie's got 6-4. Salvador's got 8-2. 5-2 Dodgers from Fire. Mark Cassidy 7-2. Brian 5-3. Alejandro 6-4. 21-1. Chad Awesome. I like where your head is at, Chad Awesome.
That would be pretty cool.
Jorge's got Dodgers 7-3. Martin's got 7-4. Joshy 5-2. Hawaiian Kira 3-1. Young Bulla 5-1. I'm just trying to pronounce these on the fly, so I hope I'm not butchering these.
Hey, it sounds like you're doing well. I mean, I can't see him, but you're not skipping a beat here.
Jay Bittner's got 1-0. I would literally be dead. There would not be a show on Tuesday if it was 1-0. I would literally be dead. By the way, the Dodgers are the home team for both of the next two, so at least we won't get walked off against, and we will always get another chance, which is big. Limpsey's got 7-3, 15-2 has Dodger Blue. Jacob's got 6-5, and my heart may not be able to take it. Mark's got 7-2. Adrian 8-1. I'd love 8-1. Just like 8 runs in the first and just coast.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Matthew 6-3. Adam 818's got 10-0. Swagmaster's got 5-3 confirmed. Michael 6-1. Xavier 7-3. Esther 8-2. AJ the Slump God 8-2. 6-1. 1-0. 12-2. Paul says with true vindication. I was reading these thinking we were going to get like 6. We're at like 100, but let's just keep going. Angie's got 6-3. Luis S. 8-6. Michael 9-4. Another Michael 6-1. 7-6. Rudy Zamora says. Michael just keeps typing in 6-1, I think, just to see how many times I'm going to read Michael 6-1. The answer is apparently a lot. We've got Half Shell Hero 7-3. Go Sato 5-2. I hope that's a Takashi Saito reference. Probably unlikely, though. And then Blaze Cracks got Rays 5-4. So Blaze Cracks, we've got one person picking the Rays. I think high scoring. Ernesto says 5-2. Bueller coming in to close out the game. I wouldn't bet everything I own, but I would bet a lot that Walker Bueller's not closing out a game. I'll just put it that way.
If it's a big lead, maybe, but if it's close, you can't really.
If it's a big lead, good Lord, anybody but him if it's a big lead.
Yeah.
I think high scoring tomorrow. I think it's going to be like 9-6 Dodgers. I think it's going to get messy. I think the pitching on both sides, they've just seen each other so many times that it's going to come down to who hits the ball at who harder. And I think the Dodgers win 9-6. Mark's got 6-2 Dodgers. Yeah, I'm with Josh. He says I would like to see the Dodgers up 7 and Kenley getting a chance to close it out. I sort of agree. If the Dodgers are up by 7, I would rather have Kershaw closing out a game than Kenley, just if we're going for nostalgia purposes only. And if it's like, 2 outs and they're up by a ton, I would throw Kershaw out there just for the hell of it. Personally,
if it's a big lead, sure, why not? Let's lean all the way into that and let him get on the mound. But I mean, in a close game, I'm
0% chance. 0% chance. Yeah, Derek says 6-3 and Gratterall closes. 5-3. We've got some more predictions coming in. I mean, that's the other interesting thing about the closer is they've been using Trinan early in the games. So it makes me think that they use Trinan the way that Tampa has been using Castillo, which is just throw him in whenever the best hitters are up or whenever the biggest situation is. So it might not be Trinan closing out games. It might be a guy like Gratterall that you just stick back there. Day-O says 9-5 Dodgers, and then says, I have a feeling Dodgers score 9. OBU says, I 100% don't trust Kenley. I don't disagree with you there. Adam asks, am I the only one who doesn't think we score a lot against a former Cy Young winner? I just think I think he's going to be good. I think the Dodgers got to him at the end, so I think they get to scrape a couple. And then I think both bullpens. I just think it's going to be a rough bullpen game because these guys they've been seen so often, and it's a day off, so everyone's going to be rested.
Just to talk about Blake Snell, we saw him like that guy said, he is a former Cy Young winner, a very good pitcher, and we saw him. He had his A game in what was it, game 2? He brought his A game and still didn't get out of the 5th inning. So that just tells you what this Dodgers offense is capable of. Even if he pitches well, I still think they'll get a few runs off him and then get to the Rays bullpen.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to a buddy of mine. I don't know if he's watching or not, but I just got a text from my buddy Scott Newhouse who says this. On Friday, he didn't watch the entire game and the Dodgers ended up winning. Saturday, he watches the entire game and the Dodgers end up losing. He turns on the game 5 minutes late today. The Dodgers are already winning. He turns it off. 5 minutes later, he checks the score, and it's 2-0. He decided to read and take a walk the whole time, and the Dodgers win. So shout out to Scott for not watching the game tonight. Scott will not be watching on Tuesday, and we'll just give him a text message at the end if the Dodgers end up winning. Yeah. He said he's literally been walking for the last 4 hours. So
yeah. Tell him you'll shoot him a text in the 9th inning if the Dodgers are up big, so he can finally turn it on to see the last out.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, you're getting love in the comments too. Jay says you're a saint. OBU says you're the MVP. So, yes, 4-hour walk planned for Scott on Tuesday. Yeah. Scott is the real G from It Was a Fair Fight. So, Scott, you've got some fans in here, so shout out to you. But we'll see. I mean, don't get too excited. Don't get your hopes up. This is like one of my life philosophies when it comes to the Dodgers. Do not count your chickens, your eggs before they hatch, something like that. But yeah, we'll see. We both like the Dodgers. Obviously, I think the biggest key to the game is going to be what Blake Snell can give the Rays. I think if Snell can get to the 5th or the 6th inning with 0 or 1 earned runs, I think that's an unbelievably massive advantage that then Tony Gonsolin would have to match, which I don't think either of us is fully expecting. The flip side is if Gonsolin can go 3 or 4 and give up 2 runs, if Snell can go 4 and give up 1 or 2 runs, if it's close, let me put it this way. If the game is within 1 run when Snell and Gonsolin are both out of the game, I'd give the advantage to the Dodgers because I think both bullpens are about even at this point, and I trust the Dodger bats a lot more than the Rays. You agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely would agree. If Tony could get anywhere close to what Snell's going to give the Rays, then that's, like you said, that's a win for the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. We will be back on Tuesday. As I said, just stay tuned to Twitter where we'll give you updates on the plan. If things were to go positively for the Dodgers, we're not, assuming anything is going to happen crazy on Tuesday. But if there were some things that were to be wanting to be watched post-game, we will stay tuned. We will definitely, as fans ourselves that have been waiting for 30 years for this, wanting to enjoy some of those things as well. So we will be on Tuesday night at some point. But stay tuned. Maybe we watch together. Maybe we don't. We'll go from there. But we appreciate you all joining us. Joshy asked, do you think Dustin May is available? I think so. I mean, I think he's a reliever for the rest of the series. Yeah. He's got a day of rest, and he'll be ready to go. So we appreciate you all. Thank you for joining. We've had a good crowd here the last couple of nights as the Dodgers are getting deeper and deeper into the World Series. Hopefully, we all have something to celebrate. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the day off tomorrow, and we will see you then.